Hi creators, it's Claire from Springworth, and it's time to turn this into its final product. Now what is this? Well, I have block out blinds and there's a little gap at the edge of each, so I thought I would turn some scrap fabrics into what is probably just a mini curtain. So I have these blocks made up and I have made them from a jacket. I had a jacket project. If you've not seen that and you want to go and check it out, and I thought, what can I do with all those scraps? And there were some strange shaped ones, big pieces, small pieces, and I did this, which is just kind of an improv, different piece in making fabric from scraps. So I have made up the two lengths, this one and the other one, and I did put some white kind of sashing in between to break it up because they are really very busy. The kind of simple colour tone keeps that busyness down a little bit, but I did want to just add some space. Now I have the block out fabric, and these are from a project that I probably made like 2010, like 15 years ago. I had a little bit left over, and you know, you just keep it because fabric can always come in useful. So I have this, it's not the cleanest, it's been around for 15 years, but it was tiny, a little bit short, so I have this other kind of fabric that I've just tacked onto the end. And I'm really not worried about what the back's going to look like because it's pretty much going to sit against the window for all its life. So my plan is to take the block out strip. I need to trim these down, obviously trim off these little dog tags. And then I'm going to do a little bit of a fold, I think. So folding the block out underneath. I'm probably going to do this inside out. Folding the block out so that it sits then, makes a bit of a channel. I think I probably just need to get started, so let's get onto the trimming and the sewing machine, and then I'll show you what the product looks like, finished product looks like when it's installed against the window. If you like me, you'll have occasions where your brain says something's a good idea and it turns out when you try it that it's not great. So I did this inside out, so right side's facing, and then folded and sewed along here. And it's fine, except that when you then fold it back, you end up with 3 layers of that kind of thick block out fabric, and I have a funny feeling that it's not going to sit very well and I would have to spend a lot of time ironing it. So if you're looking for a bulky side seam, then highly recommend. But I think what I will do is a bit more of a traditional piece, and I'll just run along the edge. But I do have the pleasure of pulling out all of these stitches. So I'll go ahead and I'll start on the second piece to gain some momentum after that hiccup. As I trim these down, you may be wondering, why did I cut them the wrong size? Why did I make them longer? And it isn't just to allow for kind of overlap, but these ones in particular, these super long ones, are actually because I rescued the strips from another project. So the collar block quilt I was making, this was the length of the strips to, I think, finish the end. Block in the middle and then 2 pieces on either side. So I did have to cut some extra strips, which is why I do have some that are pretty much the right length. But a little bit extra always works out for me, and that then you don't end up having to re-sew it if it ends up just slightly too short and your fabrics stretch at slightly different rates as they go through the sewing machine. So I'd prefer to have like a little bit of waste or stuffing for a project than to have to redo it again and again and again and then work out it wasn't the right length anyway, because that's actually more waste than this little trim here. The project is not an exact one. It's definitely function over form. Like, I'm not convinced this is a very straight line at all. I'm not squaring it up because it's really just gonna sit. It's gonna do the job perfectly well, whether it's perfectly straight or slightly wonky. So I'm just kind of evening them out where, like, there's a step. So I'm kind of just evening those two pieces out. And that may mean that this block's not slightly square, but I'm okay with that. So the only difference really is I'm going to put the two side pieces together and I'm going to sew straight down the edge. I'm not going to roll that back in forward, and then that should reduce the bulk in the seam and help it to sit nice and flat. I am putting quite a generous seam allowance on just to make sure that any scrappy bits don't end up falling out. And I'm not really that bothered about which way the seams sit, as long as they sit flat on both sides. Where I do have this though, and the blue is slightly longer than the white, I will try to tuck it out of the way, because otherwise that blue will show through to the front. I always kind of want to press away from a light coloured seam if you have overhang or overlap. But you can see here, this one wouldn't overhang all the way along, so I can, if I want to, press that one towards the white. So I've sewn across the top, and now I'm just going to sew down the second side, and then I'll trim off this excess fabric when I have finished. So I'm now going to turn this right side out. I'll trim off that bottom section. So I'll now turn this right side out, and I will close through this gap at the top or bottom. Annoyingly, my hand is just too big, but I should be able to do this. But I'm thinking at the top to just keep it really simple and as easy as possible, because I am very much more concerned about this project being finished, is that I might just turn these in, fold that over like I'm wrapping a present, and then stitch that down like that. Just have to make sure I tuck in any corners. So I'll set up the other, and then I just want to try to make sure that these are kind of very similar at the top. I wouldn't want one to be the full strip and then one to be half, so I'm not going to finish it until they're both ready to go. Here they are then, the two finished sides. I'm going to go and put these up in 1 second. And I really just did a simple folded over, folded the corner in for the sides. It's not even that square, but it's going to be pretty high. So I doubt you'll even be able to see it in person as well as on camera. And I just gave them a quick iron so that they sit almost flat. But I don't mind a little bit of bulk because that will fill in any gap. So let's go and put them up. It's a little bit tricky to film in the dark, but basically see that crack? That is what I'm trying to block. So it actually bounces out this way in the dark with the light that come in from outside. So I want to do that side and then the one that's over there as well. There they are then installed quickly with a push pin at the top and just a dot of Velcro at the bottom just to hold it steady. I absolutely love how they look, and I did think it doesn't have to be a blind edge. You could actually make one of the door snakes from that, or anything where you need a tube. So if you followed along, I hope you make an awesome project, and otherwise I will see you next time.